This is Change Over Time, a podcast where I think historically about things I geek. I'm Daniel Horowitz Garcia, the alternative historian. This is a bonus episode of Change Over Time. Why? Well, because the only thing harder than independently producing a podcast is independently producing two podcasts. In November 2016, I launched Feeling Political, a podcast where I talk to people about politics and emotions. It's just too difficult to do two shows, at least do them well. So I'm closing Feeling Political. However, I will be using the format on Change Over Time when it's appropriate. Now is one of those times. In 2017, just as Trump was being inaugurated, I visited my mom and talked with her about politics. This Thanksgiving, I'm going back to Puerto Rico to visit family and see how things are after the storm. I'll be putting together some future episodes on what I find, and I anticipate my mom is going to be a big part of it all. This episode, one of the most popular I've done, gives you some insight into my mom, Doña Edna Garcia. Enjoy.
We have to go back to the 60s and the 70s and get militant again, because I don't think Trompo Loco is going to let the unions stand still.
I don't know about you.
I think it's time that we have to go back to the street, march, and let our voices be heard.
But I'm feeling political. I visit my mom twice a year. She lives in Puerto Rico, so it needs to be planned a little in advance. I booked this trip before Election Day, before I knew there was going to be a march, although I did know there was going to be an inauguration. Yes, I missed the Women's March on Washington, but I got a chance to talk with my mom. I win. This is a podcast series about emotions and politics and the actions we take, or the actions we think we should take, or the actions we wish we could take. Doña Edna is a former union member and retired RN. She's my mother. She's a badass. A couple of points. Mete mano is a saying in Spanish. The literal translation probably won't help you, so think of it as saying, get to work. Another point, Doña Edna does talk about the Women's March, but she doesn't refer to it specifically. Here's Doña Edna.
Well, I want to be identified as Doña Edna, and as a mother, and a grandmother, and a daughter, and a good citizen. Oh, God, I'm really worried with Trump in Washington, that Trompo Loco, and then this one, this statehood in the island. I'm really worried about that. I'm worried about the independent movement in this country. Puerto Rico, I want my island to be free, to be its own nation. And I'm really worried with Trompo Loco in Washington and this statehood in Fortaleza in San Juan. I was an 1199 delegate in New York, Long Island, and I really feel bad seeing what's happening to the labor movement in the States and here in the island. It seems to me that all the sacrifices and all the work we did is going down the drain. I'm worried about it. I think this is a way of getting rid of the unions, of squeezing the unions and pushing them against the wall to the point where the unions are going to disappear. What they should be doing? Well, it depends. You analyze what's the problem you have right now, think about it, think logically, and go ahead and solve the problems, because problems come into our lives to be solved. Mete mano. I think the labor movement has to get on its feet and start working hard to get it going, not to let it disappear. We need to keep moving, to keep fighting for it. I'm looking for them to mobilize, to get on the street, to let the world listen to them. I think they have to be militant. We have to go back to the 60s and the 70s and get militant again, because I don't think Trompo Loco is going to let the unions stand still. I saw a brief thing in the news. I think it was great. I think we should hit the streets more often. I think women, blacks, Latinos, we have to unite and we have to hit the streets and let our voices be heard. I think that's the problem, that we have just sat back since the Bush era and then that Clinton era. I think it's time that we have to go back to the street, march, and let our voices be heard.
That was Doña Edna, recorded in Puerto Rico. You can find more information about Change Over Time at changeovertimepodcast.com. I also tweet at Daniel Alt Hist. Take a moment to rate this 5 stars. It helps people find the podcast. Safe travels.
It's been a pleasure, baby.